Hey, if you want to create lasting change in your life, like habits that endure, that you stick to what you wanted, there are two keys, and there's only two things you need to worry about. And it takes a total of 12 words to tell you those things. I'm here with coaches of Tiny Habits. It is office hours for Tiny Habits coaches. And I'm going to start with this about the two things that really matter for lasting change. Number one, help yourself do what you already want to do. Okay. So think about that. I think that's about 8 words. Help yourself do what you already want to do. Number two, help yourself feel successful. It's that feeling of success that helps wire in habits, that causes change that endures. Those two statements I call maxims. And if you are doing New Year's resolutions in the more traditional way, I suggest you write these down, put them on your bathroom mirror, and let these be your guide for the coming year. I'll say them again. Help yourself do what you already want to do, and help yourself feel successful. So there we have it. I'm BJ Fogg. Hello, coaches. Thank you for joining Office Hours today. You know the format. You can just type questions in the chat bar, raise your hand. You can just go off mic and so on. And let's dive in. So glad that you're here. Hey, Ellen, what's up?
Hi. Well, I was wondering, I continue to encounter public health professionals who love the stages of change model, and you've made your feelings clear. What I'm kind of looking for is an appropriate statement. You know, I'm not there to challenge them, but I'd like to open their minds. So I have something along the lines of, you would know best, but like 40 years ago, the research was blah, blah, but now newer research, blah, blah, but some kind of kind wording that gets them off the model.
Yeah, there are two approaches, I think, here. One is to kind of attack stages of change. The other is to show how behavior design is different and Tiny Habits is different. And I would choose the second one, depending on your relationship with these people. And in the behavior design approach in Tiny Habits, you don't wait around, as you know, you don't wait around for somebody to be ready to change. Instead, you figure out what they already want to do, and you get them started right now with something they already want to do. Just like I said earlier, help people do what they already want to do. The way you might help somebody shift, let's say you're working with a team of 4 or 5 people, and they're like, okay, stages of change, and we have to shift them through the stages. Just say, wait a minute, don't you think for our employees or patients, that's probably, or community members, that each of those person has something they want to change right now, something they already want to do? For example, it might be tidiness, it might be something with the relationships and so on. It may not be stopping smoking, it may not be stopping drinking soda, but let's help them change what they want to change right now. And so I would probably address it in that way, where you're not attacking another approach. Instead, you're helping them see that everybody has something they want to change right now. And so in behavior design, it's about figuring out what that is and making it easy for them to do. Ellen, if you need more than that, and if you need a little more aggressive approach to helping people, that approach is trained a lot in academics. And in many settings, it does not succeed very well. And people will be happy that you have a different approach to it, because people who have worked in employee wellness are frustrated with this model or this approach. So, but if you need something stronger, let me know. I won't do it here. I hope that's helpful for your next step. Yeah. Thanks. Hey, Pam, what's up?
Hey, so I wanted to share with you in the group that I did my Tiny Habits talk on Sunday. It was 175 people, standing room only. People started coming in at 9:30 to get their seat. It was phenomenal. It was so awesome.
That is so good.
Yeah, they loved it. So the question I have for you is, and I used the stretching. I had everybody get up and we did a Tiny Habit stretch. So that was, everybody like try it because it's really super awesome. So anyway, so the question I have for you is, I feel like the only thing I would change, I think everything was really good. I think in an hour-long session, I think there's important things about the BMAP model, but whether people were scientifically inclined or not, it was a little much for an hour, but I still think there's important things to be said about it. So I was thinking about just focusing on like a simple overview without showing the model. Like, what do you think?
Well, did you have them learn to teach the 2-minute version of the behavior model? Is that what you're talking
Yes.
about?
So,
Yeah.
so it's the ability curve.
Right, right. And so you taught them and you had them practice teaching that.
Yes.
Yeah, that is minimum, that's 8 minutes. That's going to eat 8 minutes out of your time minimum. People really like it, but in a short presentation, you might just show it or just write it out. B equals MAP.
Yes.
Explain what those are and say, okay, let's go to your behaviors. You're already motivated to do it because you chose a behavior you want. Now we're talking about ability, like how to make it easier, and prompt, how it's going to be, how you're going to be reminded. And in the tiny habits approach, guess what? Ability means making it really tiny. Check. Prompt, you anchor it to something you already do. Check. And so they can see the connection between the tiny habits method and the behavior model. And that takes a minute.
Yeah, I think I'll just simplify it a little. If I go longer, I'll definitely add the 8 minutes. The other thing I was thinking about doing is, like you said, explaining it like you said without showing the actual graph, and then maybe having BMAP with, obviously your prompt is kind of set, right? Your motivation is set after you create your recipe. So you really want to move the ability. So I was thinking about having a slide where the A moves. It's like,
yeah, okay. You may not, maybe, but I don't think you even have to show any visuals.
Okay.
Other than B equals MAP, and say this is a model for every behavior, including habits, and that's what we're working on here. And so you've all picked habits that you want. If you haven't, back up, pick a habit that you want. That's one of the key things. And then so now it's about ability and prompt, and you can just show that connection between the model and the tiny habits method. And I think that, and you can say, hey, if you want to know more about this model, go to behaviormodel.org. And I think the 5 videos on that landing page are a really good way for people to understand that model in a way that you can't draw it out because they're videos and it shows the animation.
Yeah.
So the interested people might go and see that.
Yeah. And I just wanted to say thank you, because I just want you to know that a lot of people, said thank you, that this really made a difference. And that's your method. Like they came up and said this was so meaningful. It was wonderful.
Well, congrats to you. That's so great. Good for you. That's awesome. I wish this for all the tiny habits coaches, that you have experiences like this. I think being within the tiny habits community, sometimes people will forget how much you really know and how much of a world expert you really are, right? Because you may be comparing yourself to others and so on. But then when you're helping everyday people, especially in a talk like that, Pam and I bet they were just very tuned in. And you saw the little light bulbs going on and ahas in their head and so on.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And that's so exciting to do. So sometimes because we're in a community of experts, you may forget how much expertise you really have. And it's nice to have experiences like that remind you.
And just one thing that might help the group is one thing I did that I think really made the talk excellent, because it's like I basically said, all right, guys, are you ready to have some fun? And they're like, yeah. So we had a lot of interaction. Like I really planned moving, and I did like 3 different tiny habits where they had to stand up and move. And it makes a difference in the attention and their ability and their interaction. I mean, I had a ton of great questions. So and the tiny habits method lends itself to action. So I think that really helped.
Excellent. That is so good. Thank you for that. Josh, Henrique, how are you? What's up?
Hello, everybody. I'm just doing fine. It's been a while since I attended this. I'm in Denmark, so that's the time schedule. So I'm really, raise the roof on this in the morning in California. It's 6 o'clock in the night here. I just, to be short, I try to sprinkle in tiny habits in everything what I do in the company, insurance business. We are in the plan of making tiny habits a way of understanding habits in the organization. I work together with the CEO. Going to have a talk with you separately, Peter, about that. Just some questions here. I work with the department of marketing and another sales department in the company. And we worked for 2 or 3 months. Some of them read the book. And the leader in the local department, he is more in doing one-to-one coaching. because he thinks it might work even better with tiny habits. He's not tiny habits certified, but if you were to see him, he's like drinking tiny habits. He just lives it, and it's totally wild. So he just wants to, you know, Henrik. So I want to learn more. I want to. So I think it's more easy for me to be one-on-one. What are your experience on if you want to put tiny habits to work in business life, not private life, but business life, more effective in one-on-one or in settings of 4 or 6 in groups? If you have any experience, just to share.
Well, we have a group of experts here. Not all of them have done it, but let's just turn it to all the coaches here. So you heard the question. I'll restate it in a certain form and just type into the chat bar. And you might even type in your level of certainty, like 1 to 10. Like 1 if you're guessing, 10 is like, man, this is all I do, Henrik. I'm just coaching in the business setting, and I've done individual coaching and group coaching. So maybe start with your level of certainty of your answer, level of confidence. And then how would you talk about the differences between individual coaching in tiny habits and habits in the business setting versus group? And maybe the pros and cons. Henrik, what factors do you think matter? Is it efficiency? Is it impact? It's building relationships? What is, besides the habit formation part of things, what do you think are the criteria for success here?
The criteria is that some of the tools, communication tools that we train our colleagues in, they would really like to put those tools into work at some special moments in the dialogue with the customers, and to get the habits around when to apply it, because sometimes it comes after the customer says A. They always say A, and how do I remember to bring the tool? And that's how we train to get it to being a habit. So I think it's a little bit difficult to remember, and the local leader, he just thinks right now that it's easier to integrate tiny habits on individual level.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to know what were your thoughts on that?
Yeah. Well, the coaches are responding here. What is your sense? If you were answering your own question, how would you answer
it? Well, my sense is that to get on a deeper level, I would go one-on-one. Yeah. That's my sense, because it's so easy to go in individual training and coaching, and what are the things that are happening in the phone for you. So what would come after? What would be, when you look at the 10 out of 10, what do they normally say in each conversation? And then nurturing go side by side, with a colleague, and so that would probably go one by one. I just wanted to know if you have any.
No, well,
I just kind of look at the chat right now.
Asking the coaches, I think, is a great approach. So as you've seen, and as I'll restate, when I answer your questions here, I will, if I don't know the answer based on research or my own experience, I'll just tell you, I'm not sure what the answer is. And this is one of those, I don't know what the answer is, but the people here have some experience in this. What you said sounds reasonable to me. But the trade-off seems to be efficiency. I mean, Pam reached 150 people in less than an hour. To do that one-on-one may have been more effective, but it would take, 100 hours to do that. Yeah. So that may be the trade-off, is just, impact versus efficiency, and maybe for some things, key important things like sales and doing sales effectively, it's worth it spending the time and having the impact one-on-one. So those of you that have typed in the chat bar, that's great. Henrik, let me have you read those. Okay. And thanks I will too later. Thank you, everybody. Carlos, how are you? I've been seeing you on Instagram. Everybody, if you're not following Carlos on Instagram, you should. Most of it's in Spanish. So yes, I can read it and so on, but how are you? What's up?
Hi, BJ. I'm doing great. Thank you so much. I haven't been able to get on in a while. So just for context for everyone, I did both Behavior Design Bootcamp and Tiny Habits, and I do that work interchangeably with companies. And I'm having this problem with one particular client. They are a virtual assistant company, and all of their team members are virtual. and they want me to help design their culture. They have a very high turnover rate, which is not rare in that industry and in my country, Venezuela. But still, I think theirs is even higher than average. And one of the very easy kind of tiny habit things that we figured out really early is that they need to have their cameras on and in meetings. Like that makes a wild difference. And for whatever reason, we just can't get the COO to get her camera on. And she is like setting the example. So obviously if her camera isn't on, nobody else's is. And I am at my wit's end of what to do with this mature, successful person who I can't get to turn on her camera on meetings.
Wow. That's a pretty hard. So that's outside the scope of tiny habits, of course, and maybe outside the scope of behavior design, but I'll take a shot at it. And Carlos, this won't surprise you, but we have a bunch of wise people here. Type in. And Carlos, they're also asking for Instagram ID. Would you type that in so people can follow you? People here, how would you approach that? The CEO, COO, he or she understands what the desired behavior is, and he or she probably understands some benefits of it, but is still not doing it. So everybody think a little bit about that. Carlos, are you able to interact directly with the COO?
Yeah, we have a really decent relationship, and we actually have one-on-one sessions.
Okay, well, first of all, we'll just go through the troubleshooting order, right? So there's troubleshooting. Is she clear on what the behavior is? Like be on camera when on Zoom? Is she clear?
No
Okay,
doubt
bam, so
whatsoever.
check. So then next prompt. She gets prompted by Zoom to be on camera, right? Check.
Right. I think, and that's what I think she could be, we could do more prompts because obviously the prompts that exist are not working.
Well, Zoom the system prompts, but you might try at the beginning of a meeting, hey, everybody be on camera. That's what we do here in this company. This is an important meeting. We'll be more effective together. So notice you're prompting and you're adding some motivation in that kind of statement. But yeah, maybe try a prompt, and then it's easy enough to do. So I don't think it's an ability problem. And then if she's still
actually, that's funny because and this is very gender specific in my experience. She made the case for it to be an ability problem for the following reason. She and other women in the team felt self-conscious about being on camera because they're not quote unquote camera ready at all times.
Yeah.
So the process that would for me would take just turning on my camera, for them would take 20 minutes of prep, hair, makeup, yada yada yada. So then there is an ability.
So that is kind of an ability factor, but it really goes down to a motivation factor of fear, right? So then we're down, ability, it's easy enough to turn on, but then it gets to what's demotivating her is I don't want to look bad on camera. People will think worse of me, especially if it gets recorded. Oh my gosh, this recording might make it to the internet. So you might want to sit down and go deeper with what is demotivating her rather than trying to motivate. So as you go down the troubleshooting path, it's make sure the behavior is clear, make sure there's a prompt, make sure it's easy enough to do, and then you look, if it's still not working, you look at motivation, and you've already assessed that she doesn't, is it a he or a she, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't feel camera ready. And so rather than trying to boost motivation and say it's so important, look at help address that fear or concern.
Right.
And women and men here on Zoom, what might you say to appear in this situation, a leader? And it may be that there's not a way to overcome that because it's just built into her and our culture so much of presenting yourself well. So what I would do, and this is my personal opinion, is I would say, okay, fine, I get it. You don't want to take the 20 minutes every time, every day to do this. That then becomes kind of a burden, but there's going to be some key meetings where we really need you on camera. Are you okay with that? So in other words, take the behavior, being on camera, make it smaller so it is easier to do, and then get her to commit so it locks in some motivation. That's what I might consider. So for key meetings, and you'll tell her, or somebody will tell her well in advance, that would be how I would start to address it.
Well, thank you so
Carlos,
much,
what do you think
VJ.
of
And
that?
I've been reading the chat, and thank you for everyone's answers. I do think that the time of the meeting not a factor because it's every meeting's at every different time. But the idea, for example, of I did not know that there's a touch-up feature in Zoom, so that can be one thing. I do believe that being on camera without being able to see yourself would be a self-consciousness reducer. So that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much for everything. To you, BJ, and to
Yeah,
everyone.
yeah. Oh yeah, and the filters. Oh my gosh, the filters make me look so much better. I use filters on Zoom. And worry about the lighting and things like that too, because I do think it's important how you look on camera, at least if you're teaching or you're coaching or in a professional setting. In other settings, it really doesn't matter. I mean, we become so casual with what can happen on video, whether it's recorded or live, that I had a video studio set up in California in our home, an entire room just for a video studio. And I disassembled it completely because it's like the world of doing these kind of videos is over. And I was very happy to free up one of the rooms. But it was hard getting rid of the gear because who's want all this lighting and whatever. But that was not your question. Carlos, good luck on that. Let me know how it goes. Come back and let us know how it goes. Really great suggestion in the chat. I mean, this is one of the things that's so awesome about the Tiny Habits Coach community. You have so much experience and insight, and you're bringing your expertise from what you do that nobody else does to the table. This is awesome. So it's almost like this isn't BJ Fogg office hours. This is Tiny Habits Coach office hours where, and so I'm so glad you guys are here. Let's see, Henrique, you have your hand up. Do you have another question? Okay, aloha. Who else has some, oh, time's very, very short. I'm used to just like cramming in like, oh my gosh, Gabrielle has a question or Julie, and we're going to answer it really fast, but maybe we won't today. Instead, let's wrap with this. What do you, to give me a little bit of feedback, what was the most helpful thing from office hours today? And it might be something I said or somebody put in chat or whatever. What was the most helpful thing? And with that, I will dismiss myself. And if Jennifer, if you could send me that list, I would love to know. And everybody, thank you so much for being here. I did miss surfing for this, but you are worth it. Do you know what a big deal surfing is? Normally I'd be out right now, but we wanted to stick to the schedule as announced. This to me is really important to interact with you and hear what you're doing and try to help you as much as I can. Okay, everybody, aloha.